I've got an update for you. All is not lost. All is not lost. You see here, you can see a little trackway leading across the field. This is in the field with the airport. So we zoom in, see a trackway. You can see these lines going off. These are hedge boundaries. Now, if you take with you a stick, a couple of little sticks with some, high-vis rag or a bit of high-vis tape or something wrapped around the top, fluttery like, then I would stick your stick in that end and then in that end. And if you look down here in the bottom corner, you've got your grid reference, you've got your longitude and latitude, and you've got your north and south thing, north and east, and basically lots of different coordinations. So if you rest your cursor over the end there, write that number down, TL6439 and the rest of it, and then you get your app on your telephone, your iPhone, and you walk across the field and you put in another stick there. Well, probably not quite that far, you might not see the stick, but maybe a couple of sticks along the length, and then just walk up and down, up and down, up and down. I've found hammered coins on field boundaries. So all these lines are field boundaries, and I'll show you, because down here I've got a little slidey tool. When I slide it back, you can see the line. Now this might be a very old field boundary, so it might be a better one because it's not showing up. But it shows up the trackway, and this trackway is heading in this direction. And the reason it's heading in this direction is because it's going somewhere. It's going to this farmhouse that obviously was demolished during the war to make way for the airfield. Bomber Command, because Bomber Command was there. They were big American and English bombers. So we grab the slidey tool and I slide it back so you can see the field boundaries. Now this here is a pond, and the vast majority of my hammered coins have been found near ponds. So this pond here could be very good. Now I don't want anybody being killed in the stampede for this pond, because there's lots of field boundaries all over the place. You can see them going around here. Look, I drag the cursor back and there they are. Brilliant, isn't it? Brilliant. This might be a pond, but I can't see any dark splodge on the field. So like I said, rest your cursor there and then TL63904 and the rest of it. And this could be an old farmhouse. And the reason I think it could be an old farmhouse is because it's called Weston. Ton is Anglo-Saxon for village, or hamlet type setup. So is it going to move? Come on. It's a bit sticky. So all of these lines and this dotted line here could be a proper boundary. In fact, you can actually see the trackway going off over there. Look, let's zoom in on that, see if we can actually see the trackway crop marks wise. Yeah, you can, and there it goes. Look, so this line here would be perfect, because they wouldn't have had tarmac back then. It would have been a horse and cart, and they're probably dropping all sorts of gold and silver hammered coins as they trundled along to go towards this farm that no longer exists. Now, something else that I have noticed over here somewhere, just there. So this is where you're going to have your tents and stuff, but just here is a spring. Now springs are very, very, very good, because you know people would have put offerings into springs and they would have congregated there for drinking water, because by the time it gets into the streams it's going to get contaminated with all sorts of horrible nasty things way back then, like the Black Death. So look, another field boundary, look, going off not that way. Grab this slidey thing and there it is. Oh look, there's another trackway there, look. Another trackway leading across the fields. Perfect. Grab the slidey thing. Oh, wrong way. Oh, and you can see it, look. So this is probably an ancient track leading across the fields right there. So like I said, you get your stick, your little bit of bamboo cane, or just rip something out of the bushes when you get there. And wrap a bit of high-vis tape. You know, get one of those high-vis jackets, you know, little tabard things, and just cut it up with a pair of scissors and just wrap it round the end of the stick in strips so you can see it at a distance. And then you've got your, down in the bottom right hand corner down here, you've got your grid reference. Go on, it's a bit sticky. What's that there? Is there anything on this? No. Now let's have a look at my barrow. It's not a barrow, unfortunately. I was wrong. It is a pond. It is a pond, but look, you can see a boundary going right up to it. So yeah, it's in the corner of a field, so it's a pond. But like I said before, the vast majority of my hammered coins have been found near ponds. It could also be a spring. And let's go over to to my other program now, and I'll show you why I think it's a spring. See, this is what threw me a bit, because you can clearly see some sort of a mound going around the outside, look, like a ring ditch. You know, I thought that was really positive looking, and with this other strange mound here and one there. Now, but what I have done is I have what's called georeferenced a flood image, extent of flooding, over the top of this. So if I now engage the where's it gone? There it is. No, it's blue in the middle. But what we can see is we can see water coming that way out of this field and water coming that way out of this field. So I reckon that could be a spring, which is even better than a mound, because a mound, you know, the artifacts are going to be, could be a metre under the ground, you know. So, but a pond is much better, because you could, you know, I'd advise extreme caution if you decide to get in there, just in case there's all sorts of dodgy stuff in there. But most of these modern waterproof metal detectors now are waterproof. What am I talking about? Most metal detectors are waterproof. The Knox is waterproof, I think. So you could get in there, but it did look as if it might have steep sides, so I would advise extreme caution. But yeah, it's quite possibly a spring, because you can see it running off down here and running off down there. So this is a spring. Now if we zoom out a bit, because now what you can also do is somewhere over here, I did mention, I think in the last video, that there's supposed to be a Bronze Age round barrow somewhere over here. So now you've got these areas where you get a lot of water. Well, if you've got Bronze Age, people back then would have deposited ritual offerings to the gods. So these areas here and here could be really good for anything Bronze Age. Now I'm pretty sure this is a airstrip, Second World War airstrip, because you can see these great big round blue things on the airstrip. And I suspect that during the war this airstrip was bombed. So if this farmstead is here, then you're going to get shrapnel all over the fields. all over the field. So where this trackway comes in, it continued at one time and sort of did a bit of a wobble down to here. So it's possible that there is going to be like, or could be laden with Saxon coins and all sorts of old stuff, and a lot of bits of old aircraft. But there is a organisation called the Friends of the Common. I forget the name, I'll put it in the description. You know, if you find anything sort of really historical, they might like to see the pictures, or they might even be at the event anyway, so I don't know. They might be at the event, so you could go and see them. But yeah, bomb craters along this airstrip where it was probably bombed during the war. There also seems to be some up here that look like bomb craters as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very precise bombing. You know, no scatter. Unless there was scatter and they've just been ploughed away. And the only reason they're visible now is because they're under trees and in woods. So where was this other spot? This is where I think another spring might be located, just here. And then it's running off. I've got it on a bit of a dark angle at the moment, but there could be another spring right there, just behind the woods. And also there, I think there's a pond, an old pond that used to be there, but it's been filled in. It's not showing up, but you can see water that maybe ran off that way. But you can see a bit of a dip. I wonder, this is extent of flooding, how bad it gets in the winter, so it shows it up more. But yeah, you can see bits of blue in there, a bit of blue. So metal detector around this area, and very, very especially, where's it gone? Around this one. And also the field boundaries. You know, I wouldn't bother with anywhere else, just walk up and down the field boundaries. Now, someone in the comments below did point out this lane that's called Temple End Road. Now, I found out somewhere on one of these village history type things, I think there's a village over here, there it is. There's a church, and it mentioned something about the temple, or the Temple End Road, and the first reference to it was back in about 1066. So obviously, why would it be called Temple End Road? Now, temples usually refer to Roman temples, and I did find, the only thing I've found that looks interesting is just here there is a lovely crop mark going across, down, another one next to it, and down, and something, you can see something there, and lots of lovely little old field boundaries. This might be an old trackway, and just here there is a square feature. Now, it's not square on this one. Oh, there it is. Look at that, a perfect blob right there. Now, I measured this, and it's about 25 meters across, which is a bit big for a Roman temple. So it could be some other kind of temple. It might not even be a temple. There's also some dark splodges here in this field, which indicates habitation. So this spot here could be a temple. Now, if I go over to my program that allows me to see through the trees, you can also see a ditch, an enclosure in these woods, because obviously it's not going to be ploughed away like in a field. In woods, it's going to be sort of preserved. Right, so this is my program, and you can see a bump just there, and you can see something that goes along the edge, which is interesting. But like I said, those crop marks before, you can see a ditch going into the field there, look, and around, and maybe a trackway leading off, and another, maybe an old hedge boundary or something there. But this bump here, now luckily I'm right on the edge of that image I took showing up the extent of flooding. So if I put that on now, you can see here there was a pond or a spring. So you could have a temple there and water spring right next to it. There's also some other enclosure in there as well. So now I don't even know if this is on the property, that's the only thing. It's a little bit of a ways off, just over here. But it did say, I think it had 1,000 acres, which is quite large. You know, that's probably about half the amount of my acreage of permissions in total, personally. So yeah, a little spring there and maybe a temple there. And there seems to be some other circular thing here. Could be a roundhouse. Now if I take it off, where is it? Is it that one? No, it's not that one. And put it on this one. So you can see something there now. You can see this a bit more clearly. And again, you can see this here. It does look a little bit large for a roundhouse. Let's take that back off there and see if I can measure the distance across. Now hopefully I've got a measuring tool. There it is. There is my measuring tool. So I click on this side and then on that side. 33 meters. It might be a bit large for a roundhouse, but it could be a barrow, you know, or it could be another temple. You know, tend to be more Roman temples, don't they? So what I've done here is I've overlaid the flood map onto my program, so you can see it in 3D. So here is a little pond or a little spring, and the road that comes in goes straight across this field originally and over to a farmhouse that is situated here. If we go back to the vertical, ignore this line going across. This is just the edge of the image that I made up for showing the flood. So it was just the edge. I must have just slightly clipped it within a few pixels the wrong way. So here's a little pond, look. And they would have come in through there, would have gone up to the farmhouse. After a long journey, they would have stopped to water their animals. And likewise, when they were leaving, they would probably water their animals before going off to market 1,000 years ago. This here might be another pond, but it might also be where in the Second World War they were dropping bombs on the airfield. Because if we could scroll in here, we can quite clearly see these little round blobs where there's obviously a hole in the ground and it fills up with water in the winter. And this is directly on the old 1945 airfield, the strip. I guess when the bombs landed in the fields, they must have just been ploughed away, but you can clearly see where it floods there. So yeah, right here is a farmhouse and there's a pond. So if you would like to know how I use this program, it's you know, it's not something you can just go online and find and visualize it. You have to construct this. So I'll put a link up here to a chap who makes video tutorials. He's another metal detectorist and he makes video tutorials on how to use this program. I think he's stumbling through it as much as I am, but it's an epic program. You know, with the LiDAR you can see through the trees. Look, now I've got this base map on, and if I take off the base map, if we can grab hold of that edge there, is it that one? Possibly. Yeah, that was the base map. Now I can get rid of the flood map as well. I think it's that one. Yeah, that was the flood map. So I'm just layering. You can layer images one on top of the other. It's like a stack. You can just layer over the top. It's incredible. And I've seen some photographs of the friends of this airbase, and you can actually see these old airplane where they used to park the planes. And there's also a big water tower in there somewhere, and hangars, and bomb shelters. So there's, there probably is going to be a fair amount of CAC in the fields, but it was only used for a couple of years for bomber command, but it was bombed, so you might get a bit of shrapnel in that area. So I think that's about it. Now, if you like this video that I've done, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below as to anything else you might think I've missed.